looked at the area of the follow before on the map where it's at and don't recall seeing anything related to that name, community-wise, in that part of the follow. They must have come up with an idea. And they gave it the name. Okay. Waiting for this to post. Maybe we can move along. I heard it go off yet. It is trying. So what did we cover last week? Huh?
Locust and potter.
So if anybody has any questions about a locust, ask Ginger, because she's on it. Huh? Yeah, if anybody has any questions about them, ask Ginger, she's on it. She is prepared. So, tonight, we'll continue on with some things we're working on here. So I want to ask you first a question. Tell me what you say the meaning of this word is. Singular, plural, I don't care.
A repetitive action
Okay?
Nothing stupid.
or a framing.
Okay? What do you think? Tell me what you think this word's meaning is.
Something you think you have to do.
Okay? Anybody else? So on your paper tonight, two directions. One, I want you to write down some habits that you know you have. No matter what they are, write down some habits that you know you have. That you know you do some things. Give that a whirl. I think we're on board now. I think we're on board. Study that over real good. Anybody?
Write down, Stephen.
Write that down.
What'd you put down? You don't have none? Huh?
He had one, he put it back.
He don't want one.
He had one, and gave it back to y'all. He don't want that.
Now,
Here's the one. You can
after-
touch that.
after you write down some habits that you know you have, if you know of something someone has told you you do, a habit that you have that someone has told you that you do, write it down.
Nobody don't talk to me.
Nobody don't like that?
Not even Rick. Especially Rick Hudson.
Yeah. And while we're working on those, so first, habits that you know you do, then second, any habits that someone have told you that you do. And while we're working on that, Roger, you can look up Matthew chapter 25. We'll need that at some point in time. So, there's some dumbfounded looks in this room. I don't know why. You all know you've got habits. Can't tell me you don't. You know you do. You know you do. Can't think of one. I ain't never heard. Listen.
Gotta have it to take a shower, gotta have it.
See, Tony's gonna start it at the bottom, and she's going all the way up. All right.
That's not a habit.
go, you may think of some more, and you can write them down. We'll need them later, but just things you know you gotta have. So, if we broke this down, just to give you a little bit of clarification on this, if we broke this word down, the dictionary would tell us two directions with this word, the word habit. And that would be an acquired behavior pattern regularly followed until it has become almost involuntary. And for some of you, let me tell you that breathing is involuntary. You don't have to tell yourself to breathe, huh?
Or some people would die.
Oh, they'd be dead, yeah. If they didn't think about it, they would die if it wasn't involuntary. Customary practice or use. These are the direction aims of defining habit, the word habit tonight that we're looking at. Now, I just want to tell you the wonderful news that I have to tell you tonight while we're looking into this word habit is that without warning, Tony wanted me to give you a pop quiz.
Really?
Tony.
That's why nobody talks to her. It's because she just comes up with all these bad things.
Check
So-
the water temperature first.
Yes. So, a couple things I've got to quiz you on tonight. I just want to know if any of you have experienced any of the things I'm going to ask you about for just a moment. This is the first one. Does any of you doodle while you're on the phone? If you've got a pen and paper in front of you while you're on the phone, do you start drawing on the paper? Now you're talking on the phone and your conversation, you're connected, you're not wandered off. But while you're on the phone, you start doodling. And you know, at some point in time, until you're off the phone, you don't even realize you're doing it. And some point in time, if you look at it, you may have made a full-blown masterpiece on a piece of paper of something you've drawn because you're doodling while you're on the phone. People do this. This is real. It's not a work. It is a work of art. It's a personal work of art because we don't know what your brain was thinking when it drew whatever it did. Some people will draw lines. Some people will draw words and circles. Do what? You draw what? Asterisks. Some people do stars. Stars is a common one that's drawn that we come to. All right, let me give you another one. Let's just look at another one. Some people are guilty of doing this right here. They either make sure that their feet are under the covers or they're out. Anybody do that?
I do.
There's something
Yeah.
in my bed that would get my toes.
So, yeah, some people think, that they some monster going to grab their feet.
It has to be put
The
in.
sheets have to be underneath the mattress.
Yes.
Oh.
How does that happen?
I don't know, but I'm just saying that some people are known that they know for sure whether their feet are under the covers or if they're sticking out. Now, anybody done this? Anybody do this?
Anybody in this room do that?
If you
Right
do,
here.
you're a psycho.
I
Now,
cannot be your friend. You
let me
stop.
clarify. Let me clarify.
I'm not wearing socks to bed.
Me either, but I can't do that.
Now let me clarify. If you ever have a gout flare, you will not put your feet under that bed sheet. I promise you. Okay, so here we go. Have you ever caught yourself talking to an object, or your food,
Absolutely.
or you're talking in the car and there's nobody in there? Random people hear you and start chuckling or looking around because you're talking away and there's nobody there. Or you're talking to yourself. I was watching the other day, this guy was working, a contractor, and he was working at the hospital the other day, and I kept hearing him say, "Would you get out of here? Would you get out of here?" And I'm like, so I stuck my head around the corner, and he was trying to get this piece of wire through the wall and to fish it up, and he kept saying, "Would you get out of here?" And when I looked, it was something in his way that kept coming back, and he'd push it back. But I thought he was talking to somebody, and I thought, God, we're going to get a bad survey score on the ER staff because the contractor's in here telling somebody to get out of his way in the room. But I then realized there was nobody in that room. But have you ever caught yourself talking to objects, food, or whatever you're working on? You might
No,
start talking.
that's those late night dollar store shoppers though, they do that.
Yeah. Well, it's always possible. That in itself now, just know that doing that is a habit. Now, the next one I love. This one's my favorite one. How many are the person that turns down the radio so they can see better? So they'll pull up to a red light or a four-way stop. They'll turn the volume down so they can see better.
All my kids do it too.
It's
In the air too. I can't
Oh,
hear it.
you know,
It's a little
or-
loud. I can't do it.
let me tell you a good one. Now, I've had this happen at work many times, is that we'll be going, we did this the other day, we was going to a 911 call. I should have videoed it because I told her she was gonna do it before we got there and she's still done it. But we went to a 911 call and a girl was working the other day with me and this woman had fell in her yard, collapsed, and the husband couldn't get her up. And she was laying there when we got there waiting for help to get her up out of the yard. But long story short, she had the siren on all the way up till we got close to the address. And then when it come time to find the address, she turned it off. And I told her before we left, I said, you'll turn that siren off so you can see better. Just like that. And sure enough, when you get close and she starts slowing down, she turned it off. So she could see the address, the house. You know, that clarifies everything that we do that.
It's because you need to narrow that, your sight, you have to only use that one.
So you gotta get rid of all that noise?
Yes, so you can focus. better.
Okay, well, then there's another one. Now this one's a good one. This is even better. Now I don't know why people do this, but this is also a habit. Let me give you another habit. So, here we go. How many of you have checked to see if the clothes were clean by smelling of them?
Yeah.
Okay? How many of you have opened a can of Play-Doh and smelled of it?
Because it smells good.
But people do that.
It smells
Yeah.
I will not drink the milk out of our refrigerator until Chris smells it.
So Chris has to smell the milk or she won't drink it. But people all the time, here's a good one. I love this one. A lot of people, before they buy laundry detergent, they open them and smell it. Like that's going to clean better, The whole purpose in buying them is to clean your clothes, and they have to decide the smell based off. But you think about that habit of every time you go get that, or when you go to the grocery store and buy milk, what do?
Check the
The date. Habit.
Get it from the back.
You've done it so long, you've done it so much for so long that it's just involuntary. You turn the radio down at the red light, you do all these things, you smell something, and Play-Doh is the top smelled object in most people from a child up. Even adults will still do that. They'll open a brand new, unused can of Play-Doh and they'll smell it. Don't ask me why, but it's always a common thing, okay?
It takes you back.
Now, here's a good one. Have you ever had a full-blown conversation in your head, all the way through, you're only talking to yourself about whatever it is going on today, and you've had a full conversation in your head? You've walked the whole thing out in your mind. You had a full
You
conversation.
trusted your husband because you thought you told him, but you just actually told yourself.
I
Uh-huh.
feel attacked.
It was verbal.
I feel like
You're saying it was verbal
I feel like at all times I have at least 2 or 3 conversations in my head.
in your head that's going. Yeah.
Constantly, it never stops.
So that one is also a habit that you do that.
No, you can be medicated for that, that's not a habit.
It's a habit until then. Until then, it's a habit. So then, here's a good one. Oh, here we go. This is always a good one. I like this one. How many of you, when you are controlling the volume on an object, have to have it on an even or an odd number?
Yes.
Courtney's all over it.
Oh, yes.
Jennifer's all over it. You have to have an even or an odd number.
Now a 5 or a 0.
Huh?
A 5 or a 0.
Yeah. A 5, a 10, a 3, but they got a number.
But when you live
And
in
they
this
got a-
state that can't hear, it has to be 12 or 14.
Yeah. So,
Yes, turn it up.
that is actually considered an unconscious preference based on a life experience.
Am I on the spectrum?
But my charger will only go up to 38.
Yeah. But that is also a habit. So, there is one thing about it. When we get to talking about a habit, and this is something that we've got to learn, and we look through everything that we deal with and what we do with habits, pertaining to all of us, no matter what that is. But here's one thing that we've got to look at. When we have a habit is a living thing. Now, it's truly a living thing. And whatever you give life to, which is your habits that you gave life to, is going to put up a fight to keep living. If you're told, now think about this, if they tell Roger over here, okay, he recently got the close A1C diagnosis, he's skimming close to the diabetes. What's that Liberty Mutual commercial? What's that Liberty commercial for your diabetes?
Really?
There you go.
Diabetes.
So he's inching close, but they tell him now, if you quit eating this And if you walk 30 minutes a day and get this under control and get your A1C down, then you will prevent it. You'll prevent it. What have you done? He's already checked with Greg Pendleton about what kind of bread to buy. Now that's the one to ask for advice about what kind of bread to buy. So, but he already made movement in that direction. If anything is a habit, you gave life to that habit, and it's going to fight to stay alive. Everybody in here, the will to live is there. It's there, and you're going to do whatever it takes to stay alive. A habit will fight to stay alive. Some of the habits that you all birthed, I have found the habits that some of you all birthed. Look at it. This is some of the habits you all birthed. Look how upset this child is to be here. Can you imagine how upset he was at the moment of birth that this occurred? Now, we see that whatever you give birth to, here's what's amazing to me. Now, I told you that the definition of the word habit clearly said acquired behavior pattern regularly followed until it's become almost involuntary. Well, guess what? That's real common to something that you've heard all your life. Let me tell you, the very thing you've heard all your life is this. This.
Is that a habit too?
What?
Talking real low when you get serious.
When you get serious, start talking real low. It might be a habit. It could be. What is the definition of the word practice?
Repeating an action.
Okay. What else?
In hopes of getting better.
Okay.
Try to reach mastery.
Okay. So, definition-wise, from the dictionary, actively pursuing or engaged in a particular profession, occupation, or way of life. So, something that we give life to that will fight to the end to stay alive. If it's a habit that you have done all of your life, or just for a short time, let's just say you've done it for, you could be like Lois and 105 years old, and you've only been doing it for 5. She's only been real mean the last 5 years. Roger tell you, she's really struck up a mean streak in the last 5 years. See, he amen that. Did you hear that? But you this habit, you could have it all your life. You could have it a short time. But whatever it is you gave life to, it's going to fight to stay alive. Now, I'm going to have Roger read some verses in Matthew chapter 25. And let's do, I'll tell you what, Roger, in Matthew 25, read 14 to 29. 14 to 29.
For the kingdom of heaven is as a man traveling into a far country, who called his own servants and delivered unto them his goods. And unto one he gave 5 talents, to another 2, and to another 1, to every man according to his several ability, and straightway took his journey. Then he that had received 5 talents went and traded with the same, and made them other 5 talents. And likewise he that had received 2, he also gained other 2. But he that had received 1 went and digged in the earth, and hid his Lord's money. And after a long time the Lord of those servants cometh, and reckoneth with them. And so he that had received 5 talents came and brought other 5 talents, saying, Lord, thou deliverest unto me 5 talents. Behold, I have gained beside them 5 talents more. His Lord said unto him, Well done, thou good and faithful servant. Thou hast been faithful over a few things. I will make thee ruler over many things. Enter thou into the joy of thy Lord. He also that had received 2 talents came and said, Lord, thou deliverest unto me 2 talents. Behold, I have gained 2 other talents beside them. And his Lord said unto him, Well done, good and faithful servant. Thou hast been faithful over a few things. I will make thee ruler over many things. Enter thou into the joy of thy Lord. Then he which had received the 1 talent came and said, Lord, I knew thee, that thou art a hard man, reaping where thou hast not sown, and gathering where thou hast not strawed. And I was afraid, and went and hid thy talent in the earth. Lo, there, thou hast that is thine. His Lord answered and said unto him, Thou wicked and slothful servant, thou knewest that I reap where I sowed not, and gather where I have not strawed. Thou oughtest therefore to have put my money to the exchanger, and then at my coming I should have received mine own with usury. Take therefore the talent from him, and give it unto him which had 10 talents. For to every one that hath shall be given, and he shall have abundance. But from him that hath not shall be taken away even that which he hath.
So, we're talking about, and I'm going to paraphrase this story that Jesus tells in Matthew 25. I'm going to paraphrase this down to give you a little 2024 language for just a moment of what we're looking at here for just a second. So he tells you of what we'll say the boss, the wealthy businessman, and he gives 3 employees 3 sums of money. Now I'm just giving you 3 sums of money to see the comparison as to what the talents were biblically. And so the first one he gave $2.5 million. The second one he gave $1 million. And the last one got $500,000. So the first one got $2.5 million, second one got $1 million, third got $500,000. And when he returned from his trip, he settled the accounts with the 3 employees, as we've seen, as he's even told about in this parable. 2 of these doubled the money. Each received the same praise from the boss. He said the same thing to him. Well done, thou good and faithful servant. You've been what?
Faithful.
Over a few things, and we'll make you ruler over many. The third did not gain or lose anything. What did he do?
Hid it.
He went and buried it. And when he did, the boss was not impressed. As the Lord tells you in the parable, that he was not impressed whatsoever. Now, when you think about something, here's something about our habits that we've got. No matter if it's an addictive habit, if it's a habit of anything we've got going on, is that this brings us to the question. This is the question I'm going to ask you out of that. Failing to do what is right is just as bad as doing what's wrong. Failing to do what is right is just as bad as doing wrong. So my question to you tonight, if you're not kicking the habits, as we call it, or breaking a habit, the Lord's done gave it to you. What are you doing with it? When the Lord gives you the ability to overcome a problem, issue, an addiction, whatever it is, depression, anxiety, when the Lord gives you what you need to do that, and you do not use it, what did the Lord say in the end of this part when he wrote in this parable? What did he say to do with the part that was dug up and buried and not used?
Give it to somebody else.
Give it to the one that's got 10. He used what he was given the most, and therefore let him have it. He will use it for its own good, its own purpose, and it turned back in abundance to him well, as he doubled what he was given when the boss come back in this parable we see. Well, that's interesting, because in 1 Corinthians, and I put this verse so I didn't forget it, 1 Corinthians 6:20, there's a verse that says, for you are bought with a what?
Price.
A price. Therefore, here's what's interesting to tie up with this parable. Therefore, glorify God in your body and in your spirit, which are God's. Failing to do what is right is just as bad as doing what's wrong. So we look at a few habits tonight, and we've all got vast habits, but I just pulled a few random ones to get our minds stirred for just a moment to thinking. And this is one of the things that we said. We said in a verse that we studied last week that we are to examine ourselves to see what? What was the verse we said last week? To examine yourself to see if
We're in the faith.
You're in the faith. You're of the faith, as the Bible says. Examine yourself. One of the things that anybody can do, and I don't care who it is, it does not matter. Anybody can do this right here. Anybody can act like a Christian. Anybody. You can look like one if you want to. You can act all day long. Your habits, however, will keep you from being one. Your habits, however, can keep you from living to the ability and extent that God wants you to be at, because you're not using what He has gave you. A habit of ignorance is to examine ourselves to see if we're of the faith, because a habit of ignorance is dangerous, very, very dangerous when we look at things. Another one that's an example. Here's an example. Anybody know what this is representing? What Bible story?
Prodigal son.
The prodigal son. The habit of irresponsibility. Prodigal son did what?
Went away,
He left. And what happened when he left?
lost everything.
He didn't use what he had. And
Well, he
because of
used
that,
it.
yeah, he used it all right. He did not put it to good use.
No.
And he pretty much dug it into a hole.
Yeah.
And so when he did, he found himself laying with the hogs. Is that right? Eating hog feed. And so eventually he got tired of that, living in irresponsibility, and he come back home. And when he came back home, what did the father tell him to do?
Get a robe.
Get a robe,
Put a ring on
put a ring on his finger,
Kill the fatty.
kill the calf. He didn't say kill the pig, because
No.
he might have said, no, I'm allergic to pork at that point, because he done been eating with him too long. But kill the fatted calf. We use what we're given, it benefits us. Now, did the brother get jealous that was there the whole time?
Yes.
Yep.
Did he not? Yeah, absolutely. Now, Adam, for example, was one of the examples I thought of when I thought about a habit of being irresponsible. Adam, in recordings of Romans 5, Paul mentioned about from one man's offense. And he's talking about from Adam's sin. That one sin that Adam committed, what happened?
Passed on to all.
It's going to the end. It's not stopping. That one habit of irresponsibility and not using what the Lord told him. What did the Lord tell him before the snake come out to tell him anything? What did the Lord tell him? Don't eat of the tree, fruit of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. Don't eat of it. And he did. He went out and didn't use what the Lord gave him. All right, here's another good example. Does anybody watch the news and get real positive vibes? And Kim, do you do that? I mean, my father says, do not watch Matt Hinkin, that he is a liar. And the reason for that is because one day Matt Hinkin gave a good forecast. He went to the lake and he about got drowned. And so he told me that don't watch Matt Hinkin because he'll lie to you. But when we get to another habit, here's another habit that we easily let ourselves get crawled into, that we got to think about, especially when negative news is everywhere. In John, he told these things I've spoken to you, that in me you might have peace. In the world you shall have tribulation, but be of good cheer. I have overcome the world. One of the things that's interesting was the disciples are sitting there looking at all of what they've got their hope in, all of what they put their trust in, all of what they put their faith in, and it's getting ready to be nailed to a cross. And when they did that, later Paul says in 2 Timothy 1 and 12 that, which cause I also suffered these things, nevertheless I am not ashamed, for I know what?
Whom I have believed.
Whom I have believed, and am persuaded that he is able to keep that which I have committed unto him against that day. You know, the disciples failed their faith the day the little boy brought his lunch up to the Lord and fed over 5,000. The disciples failed their faith because what were they wanting to do?
Go by.
Kim, run over to Kroger right quick, run out to town. It's going to be a while on the mule, but run out there to town and get us something. We got to feed all these people. They followed us over here and it's getting too late. The disciples' faith test failed when a little boy brought his lunch up and fed over 5,000. The habit of being discouraged is killing us. We're killing ourselves by constantly being down and out, upset, under the foot and downtrodden. We are discouraged on every hand, perplexed. All these things the Bible says we're not to be living in. Guess what our habit is doing? We're stuck. We're stuck. And so all of these things we run across as habits, and habits stick. And once you brought life to it, it's going to fight you to stay alive. Here's one. Now this is a habit. This one's a hard one. Okay, are you ready? Has anybody in here ever been a police officer? All right, everybody raise your hand. Everybody raise your hand. Everybody in the room is a police officer. They police things every day out of habit. I'll give you something. Here's an example. So, when we want to condemn one thing, but not something else, we decide we're not going to go with this thing, but we're going to be okay with this over here. We're going to condemn this one for doing that, but we're not going to say nothing to this one over here. Habit will get you to do that. Habit will get you into constant judgment of what you see and condemning this one for this and condemning that one for that. All of those things that we get into. If you think about it, if you help your child with homework, if you have a kid at home, you help them with homework. We got Dee's in here, she's a school teacher. Normally, when you help a kid with homework, where is normally the answers to the questions? Huh? Somebody said Google. Jennifer's in here, she's a school teacher. The back of the book.
It's only got the audience.
Yeah. So if I took this as an example of where you could go, now think about this. Wouldn't it be nice if you had a book that you could sort all the answers to what you're looking for in the back? You could just, once you get the question, you could flip to the back of the book and find the answer.
Teacher's edition.
Huh?
Teacher's edition.
Yeah. And habitually, people seek for things like that. I pulled some books up just to give you some flashy titles. 10 Steps to Successful Child Rearing. 5 Months to a New You. How to Succeed in Business Without Really Trying. I've tried such steps and still failed. And people have read that book. I've tried such steps and still failed. All these things are in our habits that we still keep going, we still keep looking, we still keep trying to find things, when the answer is the same as the businessman giving these 3 employees 3 amounts of money, 10 talents, 5, and 1. And what are you doing with it? So the answer is very simple. I'll give you the Bible answer of breaking a habit for anybody, is that there is nothing, no temptation, that is common to man that you're not able to have a way of escape and be able to bear it. There is no habit that cannot be broke. In Luke, he records that with something specific, nothing is impossible. What is that verse?
All things are possible.
Yeah, but it says something before that. Luke wrote it. He says, for with nothing is impossible.
With God.
Thank you. With God, all things are possible. There is no habit you can't break. Now, if you don't want to break the habit, Roger does not want to break his habit of eating ribs. He is not interested in you breaking that habit. You don't want to break that one at all. If we ever adopt a religious effort to say no more pork,
I'd have to go somewhere else.
Roger is leaving. Okay, just prepare for it. But think about it. The Bible clearly gives us all the answers. God has done gave us what we need. We've done been given the talents. What are we doing with it? What are we doing to break our habits and what we get to? One of the things you got to think about is how much is dictating around you. How much in your life and how much you're dealing with is dictating you, and your actions, your feelings, anything like that. You will never put any attack on a habit that you try to break if you give anything else the power. You think about it this way, and this is just an example. You think about it this way. If a person wants to stop smoking, what does most smokers say their worst thing about smoking? Chris back there somewhere, he's had that experience before. What's the worst thing about stopping smoking?
Seeing other people smoking, smelling.
Okay. Still being around it is a big one.
Being
Always
around this
one
life
after
without
I
being
ate.
able to have one.
Huh?
Being around this life without being able to have one.
Yeah, yeah. All these habits have become, you gave life to it, and now it's finding you to stay alive. You can give your efforts to do something, but the actions and things around you is occurring to dictate what you process about these habits that you've acquired. Same as turning the radio down when you pull up to turn, or whatever else you're doing.
When I'm lost, I gotta,
Huh?
when I get lost, I gotta.
When you get lost.
Wrong turn, I gotta turn it down so I can find my way to where I'm supposed to be.
You know that, huh?
Exactly.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Sounds
I agree
logical,
with it. Does anybody know what this picture is? What's going on in the picture?
Sign in the building, the wall.
Nope, you're close, but not there.
Pearl Harbor,
What is that? What are we doing?
Sign a treaty.
signing the treaty, expanding.
You're in the direction, but we're not there yet.
Surrender.
Hancock.
Nope, we ain't doing none of that yet.
Declaring war.
Thank you.
Oh,
We are declaring. Have you seen any country do this in any recent time? You seen this being done anywhere recently? Any country? You ever hear of them declaring war? So, it's actually a formal act where a state or country announces existence or impending war activity against another by an authorized party of national government to create a state of war between two or more states. Do you know that the one way to get your habit under control, if the devil, let's use the devil as an example, if the devil has got you wrapped around his finger, that's a good one I like to use, what are we supposed to do with him?
Cut it off.
Okay, we're supposed to cut it off. What else?
they get thee behind me.
Okay, so that means if you tell the devil, you get behind me, I'm not following you, you get behind me. What's the Bible say he'll do?
He'll flee.
Flee.
Okay? So that means that you are declaring war against what Satan is trying to do in your life. Your habits don't change if you don't declare a war. And you know, honest to God, a person of addiction or any other habitual issue, anything with a habit, they are literally declaring war against themselves. Kim can tell you that. They are literally, that's a habit. An addiction is a habit. But they're literally declaring war against themselves. Because they are getting ready to try to break the hardest habit that is ever imaginable. Now, addiction in itself medically is a disease. It's now diagnosable as a disease. And addiction in all of our lives is a disease because it plagues us with other problems. It gives us other complications and secondary complications and other issues in our lives, and it may not be a drug. It could just be simply a habit. We don't declare war on those things. We're not breaking a habit. If God has done gave you what you need to be able to do it, and it's not happening, what's in the way? Huh? It. You're the only reason that it's not happening. If God's done gave you what you need to be able to be an overcomer, anybody find that in the Bible where it does not say that? Let me know. But God has done gave you what you need to be able. What is recovery? Anybody tell me what recovery is? Give me what you think it means. And I'm not talking about just an addiction, just recovery. What does that really mean?
Becoming better than you were.
Okay?
Get back to where you was used to be.
Okay? What else? Huh? Okay. What else? What is recovery?
Reconcile.
Okay. I want to hear what your meaning of that word is. What do you think that is?
To get better.
Okay. Biblically, if we were going to turn that word into a biblical term, there's a word that's used throughout the Bible.
Healing,
Huh?
healing.
No, it is part of healing. But he talks about quickening. Quickening. What's the word quicken mean in the Bible? To make alive, to revive you, quicken your spirit, sharper than any two-edged sword, rightly dividing to the. We get all the way through that the word is powerful and sharp. It is what? Quick. It will bring you life. It will revive you. Recovery is putting you back to what you once was. God created all things, and He created man and everything in 6 days. And when He done that, He said they were what?
Good.
Good. So God's done gave you the ability to be in state of good. You think about that for a moment. God's done gave everybody the ability to be able to deal with their problems, their habits, their addictions, their situations. The tools are available. Now when God hands you something, the question is, what do you do with it? What are we doing with it? Some, the Lord lets them use it, and they go double fold. I can't remember what's the boy's name that went with Jeff to Isaiah House. Is it Jordan, something Jordan?
Jordan Wilson.
Thank you. Did he write a book? What did he do? He wrote a book,
You always call them.
and then after that he's done something else, movie, something, TV, something, documentary.
Yeah.
After going through the experience and reviving, quickening himself, recovering, which going back to the life that he once had in recovery. Recovery is not sobriety. That's a big mix-up right there. Everybody says, what is recovery? That's sobriety. No. It's reviving yourself to the life you was before you got to that spot. Recovery puts us, as the Bible calls it, as to quickening your body. It'll say that one of the things that the Bible says, I think it's in John, and I don't think I've got it up here, but in John it starts talking about, he says that his words are life to the spirit, but there's no quickening to this body. Everything that we live in our lives and we go through, there's things that's limiting us from advancing farther in our life. And I'm going to give you some examples. This is the last thing I'll show you. I'll give you some examples of some habits that limit us. What are we supposed to pray for?
Everything.
Forgiveness.
Okay? What else? Okay, what else? In the book of Luke, there's a part in Luke, I don't remember where it's at, but it's in Luke. There's a part in the Bible where there was a Pharisee and another person praying. And the Pharisee prayed that he was glad that he hadn't done all those things. Thank you. And all the publican prayed was what? Forgive me, I'm a sinner. Forgive me, I'm a sinner. Our problem, habit, let's go back. That's our habit, which is a problem, is we don't pray specifically for what we need. All that vain jangling, that's the word that keeps coming back in my mind, vain jangling, all that tinkling cymbal, all that noise that we're making to God is not what we need. Instead of worrying about everybody else, instead of thinking about procrastinating, being a perfectionist, forcing situations that get in our way, assuming others know more than I know, all these things, we're not praying a specific need. And here's why. What is that on the screen?
Thermometer?
No. Thermostat. What's it do? Mm-hmm. This is what your habits do. It keeps you comfortable. Your personal thermostat is your habits. Because when it gets too much, your habit puts you back where it's comfortable. A thermometer does what? Yeah, it just records whatever the temperature is, whether it's 0 or 100. It just tells you what it is. What's the Bible do?
Tell you what it is.
It just tells you how it is. Whether it's good or bad, it tells you what it is. It does not dictate you in any way based off your habits. Thermostats. People are like, they operate just like a thermostat. Their habits drive them to a comfort zone. They stick in their comfort zone, just like the climate control thermostat does. It keeps you warm or cool. Same as our habits. If we really want to break a habit, we got to declare war against ourselves first. Difficult thing to do. But then we got to get down to praying and for some very specific things. The Bible even says that you're to go into the closet and do what? Pray in
Secret.
secret. Well, that would be better than going out on the streets, as the Bible records, and praying, saying some ritual prayer going on. The Pharisee that wanted to pray about, he's thankful for all the stuff he hadn't done, or he's glad that he didn't do all these wrong things. But the publican sat over and didn't say nothing but, forgive me, for I'm a sinner. Such a focused prayer that Luke recorded in that time. But our habits are limiting us. Whether we see it or not, whether we agree with it or not, whether we admit it or not, our habits limit us every day. Every day.
But those things are so hard to not.
Absolutely. They're almost involuntary. The habits that we've acquired in our lives are almost involuntary.
1, 2, 3, and 4.
Mm-hmm.
That's me. I hate to do it, the first 4.
Mm-hmm.
How do
Yeah.
you not worry? I'm the world's worst procrastinator.
Mm-hmm. You're supposed to be your school teacher. You're supposed to be.
Well, I can't when it comes to work, but just in my set it up, you know? I can't procrastinate for
Yeah.
other things.
Right.
It just, like right now, there's a phone call that I need to make, but I've been putting off for 2 weeks.
Mm-hmm. Still waiting.
I'll do it Monday.
But you've done it before. You put it off before. This ain't the first time you put off doing something.
Oh.
It's become so natural to us, it's almost involuntary. Almost involuntary.
And I worry constantly.
Yeah. I can shut your brain off. I've got drugs that I use in the ER and on the ambulance that I can turn everything off but your heart. I can stop your breathing, I can stop your brain function, I can't stop the heart. Those is a different set of drugs. But your heart, involuntary, will beat. You have a metabolic drive. Ginger can tell you this, there's people with no brain activity, they still breathe. Involuntary. They still do it. The heart will beat autonomously without the brain telling it to speed up, slow down. It'll still beat without that. People all the time on ventilators live for tons of time with no brain activity. The heart's still beating, they're still breathing. All of what we've done is harmed ourselves with some bad habits. Now, some habits are good. Give me some examples of some good habits.
Brush your teeth.
Pray, brushing your teeth, keep going hygienic. Praying, what else?
Read the Bible.
Read the Bible, what else?
Attending church.
Attending church. Don't forsake the assembling of yourselves.
Visiting others.
Visiting. What else? What's good habits? Paul said, Paul said that when I do good,
Evil is present.
them bad habits are going to fight you to live. No matter what you try to replace a habit with, it's going to fight you to stay alive. Especially if it's a long-term habit.
That is.
But you think about good habits versus bad habits. Everybody's got habits, no matter what they do. It's good or bad. Everybody's got a habit. And you get in that routine, you stick in that routine, and now it's got so practiced that it's practically almost completely involuntary that you do it. I mean, how often do you go do something, buy milk, and you think about looking at the date? Most people just walk in there and look at it. There's certain things we've done so practiced that we now don't almost even think about doing it. It's just become so involuntary.
It's part of us.
It is. You gave it life, and now it's going to fight you to stay there. If a ruler was told that we have another person that's getting ready to come take your job, he's going to come take it right out from under you. What do you think the ruler, the king, is going to do? If he's been warned there's somebody getting ready to come take him and take his place, what is he going to do? He's going to die.
He's not going to take that person out.
It's time to get rid of it. What do you think your habits are doing in your life every day? Anything that's getting ready to take its life and take its place, our bodies, our conscious efforts, I'll even say, and our hearts are driven to a lot of things by habit. Dictation of feelings, dictation of your emotions, all these things. If one person in a room gets upset, what will the rest do? Somebody will. We've got a group of children, and this is, I don't know if anybody knows about this. Anybody heard of FND? Y'all know what FND is? The functional neurological disorder. We have a room in a school right now in this area that has a room of kids that's just in this room, that if the light color changes or a sound, any sound out of the ordinary sets off, they seize. They start having seizures. All of them. One in the room can have this happen, and the rest will do it. It will set the rest of them off with this FND. We've got kids in the room right now in the school. We were there the other day, where they've got headphones on. There's a special lighting in the room. It's unreal what I was in there. But one thing out of their habit, their zone that their body has adjusted to, throws them off so bad that their body goes into a seizure. Uncontrollable. There's no treatment for this. There's no treatment for this. Let me ask you a question. Is there a cure for addiction? Huh? Chris says no. Anybody else say different? Is there a cure for addiction?
Depends on what addiction.
Huh?
Depends on what addiction.
I'm just asking if there is a cure for addiction.
Give it to the Lord.
Huh?
Give it to the Lord.
Okay. There is recovery. There is recovery from addiction. But you don't cure
I wouldn't
addiction.
think so, because, I mean, I might be wrong, but one slip up and it's right back, once there's a cure.
Relapse.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Happens all the time.
Yeah,
Mhm.
so I wouldn't think there'd be a
Well, there's no cure. But what changes a lot about recovery? Reviving back to the state you once was, or back to the person before you get to that state.
To want to not do it.
Huh?
You have to want
The
to
will.
not do it.
But the main bulk of this drive is what caused the addiction first. And that addiction repetitively became a habit. It became a habit. Anything in your life can become a habit if you let it. Anything. And it will take the place of something else because you gave it life, and it's going to fight you to live. It's going to fight you to live. It's going to take up space in your life because you gave it habit. You gave it life. Anybody else got a thought tonight? Oh, you all are so quiet. Is that good or bad? Any thoughts? Anybody? It's quiet tonight. Kim, you got anything to add?
Just that, in the same way that the bad things can become a habit, the good things can become a habit
Yes.
as well. And whether it's addiction or whether it's anything else, the more that you're working toward whatever your goal is, the easier it is to become repetitive and do it. Like, for example, I got the diabetes diagnosis.
Mm-hmm.
My A1C was like a 9.1.
Mm-hmm.
The first 3 months, and I'm not trying to compare sugar with drugs or anything like that, but I went through sugar withdrawal. I went through carb withdrawal. I was not a nice person for the
Mhm.
first 3 months at all whatsoever. I mean, I don't even think I talked to Dave for those 3 months, just to be on the safe side. But that, I didn't think I'd ever be able to live without my chocolate cake. I didn't think I'd ever be able to live without, just certain, my pastas and my cheeses and my breads. I'm Italian, so I mean, it's there. But after those 3 months, once you get over that hurdle and you work through it and you do what you're supposed to do, I can go without bread now. I don't eat bread that often. If there's not chocolate cake in my house, I don't eat it.
Mm-hmm.
And I've learned not to buy the things and bring it into my house
Mhm.
that I'm not supposed to have. So now my A1C, now granted I'm on medication and stuff too, but my A1C is a 5.2 now. I'm not even in the pre-diabetic range as far as my A1C, because my eating habits and just daily life habits have
Okay.
changed. So in the same way that when you're doing something you shouldn't be, like not praying for what you need, when you get in the habit of praying for what you need, then that also starts to become an involuntary motion too.
Mhm. That's it.
She's okay, as long as you don't come to my house for dinner.
Yeah, if you go to BD, she's
Unless
bad
she cooks her
influence.
baked beans.
She's bad influence.
And
Yep.
cheesecakes and all that other stuff she wants, yeah.
She's just a bad influence. She creates.
But it was a healthy, fresh sauce.
Anybody else got anything tonight about some habits? Now, what did you put on your paper? Tell me some of your habits you wrote on your paper.
Eating.
Eating, Roger's first one.
Can that be a habit?
Huh?
Can eating be a habit?
Yeah.
I mean, it's involuntary, but I mean, you don't have to eat.
Some
gluttony.
people eat just because they want to. It ain't because they're hungry.
Really?
Yeah, there's people that just
Because
habitually.
it's rare. Emotional.
Really?
Emotional
Oh,
eating.
really? I eat because I'm hungry.
You don't do that?
I eat because I eat.
You'll find yourself in the kitchen trying to get a cookie or something.
You won't do that at my house.
Well,
No, you won't. I don't go grocery store.
You don't have groceries.
You'll starve.
I ain't got no groceries.
Any other habits you put on your papers?
blowing.
Blowing. Okay? That's a good one.
Blowing. I get tired.
I'll say, are you tired? And he'll say, no, it's just a habit.
What are you blowing for? What am I doing?
Now that's one of them that you've been told you did.
Yeah. I was told, yeah, I didn't realize I was doing it.
Any other habits you put on your paper?
Smoking, chewing, spitting.
Yeah? Okay?
Spitting is a bad habit.
Yeah?
I don't do it, I mean, I try not. but
Mm-hmm. But it is a habit.
It's not a habit that I do.
Yeah.
On a regular basis.
Anybody else have any habits they wrote down? Boy, the back row back there's been quiet. Y'all don't have no habits?
I don't have any.
No.
None?
Steve has one that drives me nuts.
What's that?
And I've broken my nuts before, so I actually feel physical pain, but he can, like when you pop your knuckles, he pops his.
Nose. The second.
It's painful
Yeah.
for me.
And he does it out of habit.
Yeah, I'm a picker, so that cracks his.
Huh?
I'm a picker.
Picky nails.
Yeah.
Some people bite their nails.
I scratch my hair.
Yeah. It's become so routine, it's just, you do it without thinking. Anybody else have any unusual habits they wrote down any kind? Roger over here don't have any. He couldn't think of any habits.
What's your,
I'm perfect, I guess.
Does OCD count?
Huh?
Being like OCD count?
Probably it's in there somewhere, I'm
Because
sure.
there's sometimes that I get in the middle of the night and make sure that my dish towels are folded properly on
Yeah.
the sink.
I'll tell you a habit.
Sleep without it.
The way the toilet paper is put on the
Yes.
toilet.
Yeah, but another habit I was thinking of.
Over. If you could do under, you're a psycho.
I'm
Hey.
under.
See, if you do.
You're a psycho.
Well, we all know that.
Establish that.
I do not lie.
I wanna see if there's
You
something.
try to pull the coffee
The
break.
question.
What is that? Is I'm gonna hire a ghost driver and I'm gonna like equal seating team.
I feel like if it's over, nephews will be doing the kids.
I know.
They won't go like
Well,
this.
there's also the
If it's
habit
over.
of people that has a nighttime routine that before they'll lay down, they go check all the doors.
Yep.
They shut doors.
I
They
do
put.
now.
All right. See, that's something you've been told you do. They go through and shut all the doors.
That's a kind of protective habit,
Huh?
wouldn't you say?
In the house.
I don't even lock the door.
Not
Like
outside.
checking the milk.
No, I'm talking about like not outside doors. I'm talking about in the house. Shut the bedroom door. Shut the closet door.
That's what I-
What happens when you do
That's a
that
habit
before you go
people
to bed?
do that it really make no difference if the closet door stayed open all night.
No.
But habitually, before they go to bed, people will purposely go shut all the doors in the house before they go lay down.
Doesn't that have something to do with fire safety though?
What happens
Last
when
time I
you-
checked, that wood door will burn.
And then read
Yeah,
it.
but it's about maybe controlling it.
It will slow it down.
Yes.
You will slow it down.
I've
But-
seen a video about that.
See, Dee's justifying her habits, so that's what she said.
Checking the milk and stuff like that. I mean, that's just natural if you don't
Yeah.
drink sour milk.
Yeah, but
Steve, when Steve gets a glass, I'm picking on Steve,
Looks at it?
No, smell it.
Oh, he smells it? Yeah,
Smells the glass.
yeah,
Makes me
Not
so
really.
mad. I just washed that.
yeah.
It's clean.
And now he's smelling it. Yeah. We do a lot more than we realize, and we've created it into a habit. We gave it life. And, now it's gonna fight us, for sure.
I always smell fresh on you to make sure it's still clean.
Oh, yeah, the snooze
Sure.
button of the one, and that's the.
The snooze.
That's
And
right.
it's not
There are
me,
two or
and I
three
will
snooze
lose my mind
buttons.
if somebody
There's
does
gotta be
that.
more than one.
And that might, put dirty lights back up.
It gets wet way before
I
that.
don't get food milk in the bottom.
Anybody
I
else?
have to be able to see my eggs before I buy them.
You have to see the eggs
If I
before you
can't
buy them?
check the eggs, make sure they're not cracked, like, you know those
Oh,
ones that
yeah,
are all like
yeah,
ragged.
yeah.
I will never buy them because I'm like afraid half of them are gonna be cracked or
Gonna be
broken.
cracked?
when I go.
That's
Yeah.
not a habit, that's being frugal.
I do that.
You guys,
I don't wanna buy broken stuff.
I did once.
I will buy
Somebody-
it.
Somebody told me I had a habit that I never paid attention to.
What's that?
The other day I was working and I was sawing, using reciprocating saw, and the fellow said, "You know that saw cuts the best when?" And I said, "When?" He said, "When you got your tongue."
Yeah, get your tongue out so you can cut better,
I
yeah.
bite my tongue when
Yeah.
I'm sawing.
Yeah.
I never paid
I count steps.
Mhm.
when I'm
Now, my
walking.
brother paid
Do
me
you- how do you
like
feel?
every.
But I don't think the numbers are important enough.
Yeah,
I get
people
one
bounce.
more.
Now what's bad is you all in here are gonna be watching everybody around you to see what habits they've formed and what they've acquired. There'll be a fight for a
Every
second.
time I go up or down the steps to.
Any others tonight?
It
Have
has
you?
to be 69. Has to
Any
be-
prayer requests?
If I'm not finished,